What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's broadcast of LPL English. My name's Gordo. I'm joined by Cubby on the opening series of the broadcast, and what a banger we've got for ourselves here, Cubby. It's Top Esports taking on Billy Gaming here in Group Ascend, looking to see who can move themselves higher up in those standings, and if BLG can keep up their 2-0 so far.
I was about to say, it was a big start for BLG in the split so far. I think the toppling of AL, a very nice win for them at the moment. But excited to see what happens going into Top Esports, who, of course, got a slow start to things in Demacia Cup. Feels like that has continued now as we've dove into the regular season. And this new roster they've put together and the Jackie Love, Canavi-less Top Esports just hasn't really lived up to the Top Esports we're used to seeing in the LPL.
Yeah, it's still very early in the season, but yeah, this is going to be a tough start out of the gate for them after having dropped the JDG already and now having challenged BLG, who are already looking to be back to their winning ways, climbing up the ranks here in Group Ascend and showing no signs of slowing down. We'll see if Top Esports can be the ones to do that here today. Let's take a look at that Group Ascend here and chat a little bit about the format for this split, as it is a little different than folks may be used to if you're joining us for the first time in 2026. You got 6 teams in Group Ascend, you've got 4 teams in Group Perseverance, and 4 teams in Group Nirvana. Now that you're splitting them out across 3 groups rather than 2, as we gained accustomed to last time around. And here in Group Ascend, watching these top teams brawl it out so far has been where the most highlights have appeared, and BLG been in 2 3-game series already.
Yeah, I gotta say, too, like, when it comes to Group Ascend, I think that early on in the season, I'm starting to see kind of 2 tiers of teams emerge when it comes to Group Ascend. I really feel like AL, BLG, and JDG, we can argue at the moment, look like the 3 stronger teams versus the other 3 teams of the group in IG, Top, and Weibo. So curious to see if that trend continues as we dive through this round robin.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, those are the teams where you've got the more question marks, right? And that gives you explanations for why they're in that lower tier, but also some hope for their ability to move up later on. You know, I've been a big fan of IG and, you know, their changes that they've come in and made. I think Saboro's been super impressive in the right circumstances. Weibo was able to take a game off of BLG earlier, and you know, Top Esports, they've got new players. They got some real accomplished LDL players joining their ranks, and maybe tonight will be the night where they give us that little bit of hope for themselves as well.
Yeah, I still think, in a way, Top, like, you can really argue that Jiachi and Fengyan, like, they're kind of fighting for the spot, right? Like, kind of fighting to see, you know, if Jackie Love isn't able to come back, is Jiachi actually the move when it comes to AD carry for the future of Top Esports? And then for Fengyu, I think that, you know, going up against other enemy supports, we have talked a lot about how LPL supports just pound for pound. We don't feel like they've been strong enough to really go up against the likes of the LCK. I think that the dominance that LCK has held over the LPL, like, yes, I think the one consistent factor of that is definitely T1 and Faker, but also I feel like support, just as a pool, when this region goes up against that one, it's not strong enough for the most part outside of Kael. So a real opportunity for a lot of supports to step up in this split of the LPL. And we'll see if Fengyue can be one to step up and show that he does have the right to lane with Jackie Love if hopefully Jackie Love is able to come back at some point on this team.
Yeah, that's going to be a major challenge for Top Esports coming into the night, right? Having to lane up against Viper and On, and, you know, even if you don't have On in that necessarily top tier of global supports, the guy's highs have been very, very high, some of which we got to see last night as he was a major contributor towards their win over AL to, you know, take a game off of one of those other top 3 teams that we were talking about right at the beginning, and put on quite a bit of a show, had a really great showing on the Nico, got to show a little bit of that Shen support, which might start to be creeping into the meta a little bit more, especially as we start to get deeper into these Fearless series. So I'm very excited to see these bot lanes duke it out, and if Jiachi and Fengyue, as you said, can try to kind of keep up and be competitive and show a little bit more than we got to see up against JDG.
I thought it was a great series, frankly, from On last night, so definitely a good building block for BLG, as, of course, I was a bit surprised to see them run back Shun plus On. I think, in a way, I would feel like this roster with Elk last year would almost be stronger than the one on paper this year for BLG. I feel like Bin Going into last year, Bin was perceived to be a stronger top laner than he is going into this year. I think Shun as well saw a little bit of a ding to his pedigree, given the time at JDG did not go the way that he wanted to. But hey, some of those familiar faces and pieces being put back together for BLG, they look good as they bounced back from a Game 1 loss, took the series against AL last night, and looking to take a cleaner series against Top Esports tonight.
Yeah, we'll see how Viper can fill those shoes, but definitely going to be a matchup to be watching in that bottom side. But let's talk a little bit about first selection as well. Once again, if you're newer to the LPL or to the 2026 season so far, new changes to how we are going to be deciding side select now. Rather than just picking your map side and carrying the pick selection with it, you now choose either blue or red side, or you choose first or last pick. The other team then gets to make the other selection. So we'll key you in once we get into Champion Select how to tell who chose what, but long story short, your blue and your red side can now be divorced from your first and your last pick, and it's up to the individual teams which ones they're going to prioritize more highly.
Yeah, I am curious to see if a trend emerges. I have a feeling that first or counter pick is going to be the trend. If not, blue side, I feel like is going to be the one that people pick the most. Also, just picking blue side, given how the game is built, there is not just Z-axis, but blue side angle versus red side angle. It's different angles for skill shots. I think a lot of people, like there is stats that it's better skill shot accuracy on blue side. I think a lot of players perceive the game from blue side in their head versus red side, just a baseline. So I think blue side has a lot of advantages to it outside of first pick or counter pick. So kind of curious to see if a trend emerges. We're going to get more data when it comes to game 2 because we actually don't know who gets first choice in game 1. We just know who picked what when we dive on in. So we'll see if we get something funky with blue and red side being divorced from first and second pick, or if we get something more standard as we dive into the draft. But at the moment, going to take a peek at the standings, Gordo, is, of course, we're starting to get deeper into this round robin for Split 1, and not really seeing many trends emerge yet. But BLG, of course, entered the night on top of the group and have a chance to build some distance between them and the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and Top Esports risk falling further and further behind, right? They're the team that's played the least series so far in the Ascend group, and definitely do not want to start off 0-2 and find yourself in sole possession of that last place slot. Meanwhile, moving up to 1-1 here, being able to take down BLG, who are currently up at the top, would definitely be a big feel-good and would get everybody talking about how good this Top Esports team could be. That is, of course, going to, I think, be a little bit contrary to a lot of folks' predictions. I think BLG come in tonight as the favorites, but yeah, Top Esports definitely playing for a little something here as they do look to try to make a name for themselves up against the top team in the group at this early point in time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for Top Esports, a lot of this is just about building more confidence. I mean, even I think just a competitive 0-2 or 1-2 tonight would be a step forward for Top, because frankly, in this early season, they've not looked very competitive so far.
Yeah, it's 2 games in. It's very, very early, but yeah, certainly, not giving a lot to write home about in that series up against JDG. So going to be on the lookout for what they can show us coming into week number 2 and their second series so far. But with that said, we're going to start off on BLG tonight as we introduce our 2 starting lineups. BLG, of course, coming on in. You know him, you love him. It's Bin, Jun, Knight, Viper, and On.
Yeah, in America, we have Dream Big, and in China, we have Dream Smart for BLG, as Billy Dream Smart over here. And hey, Dream Smart for them, it was return to the formula. That was the roster change they made to be competitive in 2024 Worlds, which was putting in Shun over Wei to start off in the jungle. Of course, he was with JDG for 2025, but I think bringing in Viper over Elk, I mean, Viper is the cream of the crop when it comes to AD carries across the planet. This guy is one of the best. He is in the elite tier. And for him to be on BLG in this team, I know Elk, man, his service for BLG was fantastic throughout his tenure. But you got to be excited as a BLG fan to get a name like Viper in this lineup. Yeah,
especially, I mean, in this period of time, we're talking about all the Koreans going back over to the LCK, being able to snag Viper back over to the side of the LPL feels very, very good. But what also feels very good is how BLG have been able to perform coming in off of last night's game. Knight, in particular, putting on a clinic in that series up against AL, winning 2 player of the games, and well-deservedly so. Got to bust out his signature Syndra for a very, very strong game number 2, and also was a lead performer in game number 3 on that Rise going deathless for the longest time, keeping up in farm, and just being able to perform incredibly well in team fights on both of the picks.
Yeah, it was a nice series for Knight, but I was honestly really impressed and excited about On's play last night. I thought On had a really, really good series. On is a player for me that I was really asking for a lot more out of last year. I think the trials and tribulations that BLG have had going up against teams like T1 and other LCK squads, a lot of it has been support difference. As we were talking about overarching before, I know that, carry is a tough task, but one that I feel like that versus On has been a big difference in a lot of the times that T1 and BLG have gone toe-to-toe. But On last night, great form from him. Looking for more consistency from him throughout this split as he delivers more of those high highs and avoids some of the low lows we see from On as well.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see. Yeah, doing it multiple series in a row, that's going to be the big difference maker for On here. That'll get him perhaps a bit back into your good graces, Cubby. But let's check out the competition here tonight. Top Esports is going to be 3-6-9, Nayu, Cream, Jiachi, and Fengyue.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is a big change for Top Esports because this was Kanavi's team. And honestly, like how Top Esports has looked throughout Demacia Cup and the first series we've seen in Split 1, they do look lost without Kanavi. And I think that is not too surprising because Kanavi has pretty much just dictated the pace of play for this team for the past few years. And it really feels like Top Esports in this core, they're trying to learn how to figure out how to play without Kanavi. And with this young core, as 369 is really the one veteran member that has stuck around. And a big difference for Top Esports, I think, this year is the fact that Cream has gone from being one of the younger players on the roster to actually being one of the more veteran and more mature voices that team has now out of the 5.
Yeah, so Cubby, we were talking about this a little bit. We're looking for a bit more out of the solo laners and out of Cream in particular. So you've come up with a little bit of a new method to track Cream's performance over the course of the split. And I see you're starting at 3 down here in the measure of Cubby's cream of the crop.
It has been great. It's been a little more stinky than it has been, rising to the top for Cream. And I think that this is a big year for Cream. This is Cream's 3rd year in Top Esports. And frankly, for me, I still view Cream as a rookie player or a younger player. He's now one of the more veteran voices. We're entering year 3, still with the same org. I thought that when Cream came into the league with OMG and went over to Top Esports at first, as a player, I would describe him as an explosive melee player that needs to expand his champ pool and needs to develop his way to play side lanes. How do I view Cream right now as a player? I think that he has a couple more champs that he's added throughout the years under his arsenal, like his Victor's okay, his Hui is okay. But frankly, I think that overarching brushstrokes, I could still use the same phrase, the same, player profile to describe Cream today. And that isn't the growth that I really think that Top Esports needs to see out of Cream. Frankly, I was a little bit surprised that they stuck with him. I think that if it wasn't for the wacky free agency system that LPL used, we could have seen Top Esports go for a different mid laner, or maybe pursue someone else in free agency. I think that that's pretty risky, though. It felt like Cream was still one of the better mid laners to have, which he is in the LPL, but still, Cream needs to not be a limited player anymore. He needs to be someone that can expand, can be leaned and relied upon in this veteran role. And I think that he needs to show more than just melee specialist, which I'm really hoping to see out of Cream this year. So, can have his hands full going up against Knight today, but we'll see if Cream, again, can step up and really, I think, be more of a stable force for Top Esports because they need it, looking at the youth they have around Cream and 369 in this lineup.
Yeah, both Cream and Knight coming into their 3rd year on these respective teams after having made those swaps after the 2023 season. And they've encountered each other a boatload of times since then, especially in this last year. Very, very few of those, especially best of 5 series, end up coming out Cream's way. I think he's won 1 best of 5 in their time playing up against each other, Cubby, and that's just not going to cut it if you're trying to become, one of the most competitive teams in the region. You're looking to actually take titles, get to internationals, and be able to exceed the best mid laner currently in the region.
Yeah, it was a big one for Cream, too, because I know that single best-of-5 win he had against Knight, that record is 6-1 in Knight's favor. But it did come split 1 of last year where Cream and Top Esports really had that big run-up to first stand where they flubbed it. But that was a big moment for Cream because he took down the gauntlet of LPL mid laners who had ran the region of past, became a new mid laner to win the LPL, which is quite rare in this region. So for Cream, again, going up against Knight, I think that ever since Knight stepped into the LPL, the league has kind of been run through him. He is the one that you have to topple if you want to hoist an LPL trophy. Cream did so in Split 1 last year. Failed the rest of the way. Did get the best of a BLG at Worlds that did look quite weak, as they did win the last best of 3, but we remember best of 5s a little bit more in League of Legends. So I know we don't have one tonight, but something to look out for Cream. Again, if he wants to make a name for himself as mid-laner in the LPL, no one's done a better job of that than Knight. If you want to find some wins, you got to beat this guy at some point.
Absolutely. And, it's a feel good to be able to take that best of 3 over at Worlds, but that was a different top esports for certain. And the question of what this team is going to look like with the new era in jungle, right? They bring in Nio, they bring in Feng Yue, Jiachi, who knows how long this guy is going to be in the lineup. But for now, 369 and Cream, they now have to fill those veteran shoes. 369, plenty used to it, having played most of his career here with this team. But Cream, it feels like it's a bit of a adjustment for him, right? It's now his 3rd year in the squad after having come over from OMG, and he now is going to really need to be that kind of rock in the mid lane, because you can't rely on the rookies in most situations to be able to fill that role for your squad. You're going to have to be able to provide some consistency when you might not get that from your jungle support, who are still getting accustomed to Tier 1 play.
Yeah, I think that Nio, I mean, honestly made a pretty impressive climb up the ranks last year, just in terms of team hopping, right? Like, we went from, I believe it was LGD to NIP to now top esports, and Nio finds himself in Group Ascend after, I mean, I don't think he had a super successful year 1. He wasn't bad by any means, but we thought that he was a rookie that deserved to be continued to play in the league, but to find himself on top esports, it's a pretty big jump going up to Group Ascend. So I think that, he saw some positives in year 1, but if Cream can really help him develop, that was the idea of him joining NIP with Doinby. So, of course, Cream, just a different role when you are playing with all this youth, Gordo. But as we dive on in, it does look like we have BLG and top esports so far. It looks like we have first pick on red side for top esports. So going to get a little funky here, as we did have at least a little bit of a differing choice. We don't know who got choice out of this. We'll know in game 2. But interesting.
Yeah, we do know that top esports chose to pick first, and we know that BLG chose to play on blue side. You can tell that by the characters underneath their respective team tricodes here in the center. But yeah, we don't know which one came first necessarily, but that first pick for top esports is going to be that strong flex pick in the Ambessa. Could be going into the jungle, could be going into the top lane.
Yeah, a nice little deny from Bin as well, as I think Bin, it took him a little bit longer to pick up Ambessa. Bin, for me as a player, isn't someone that actually picks up champs ASAP. I feel like Bin needs a little bit of time sometimes with champions, but of course when Bin hits his high highs with champions, he wrote the book on how to play Jax pretty much. I mean, this guy is just built different on the champions that we know he pilots very well. As it looks like we're going to get a Varus for Viper and an Orianna for Knight. So taking away some of that wombo that is, you do have the potential to have when it comes to the public execution plus Shockwave. This top esports going to grab the Jhin, so they're going to lock in some range priority against Varus, Orianna, and Cream's Akali in the mid lane. Always been a special pick for him.
Yeah, I love to see this from Cream. I think a lot of teams in this situation, they'll just handshake the Azir. They'll accept that, it's maybe like a 55-45 matchup in favor of the Orianna. And while there's plenty of opportunity to outplay, a lot of folks do prefer the Orianna side there. It's going to be Knight daring him to pick the Azir into him, and Cream saying, no thank you, I'm going to go back to what my specialty historically has been, snap up that Akali, get himself a matchup where he could be able to win out in the one-on-one. Love to see Bin snap up a Renekton right now, being able to dominate in the top lane. Now something that can really, really snowball, and we hear players all over the world talking about this new patch and how much more reliably you can kind of carry from the top lane, and you can have a lot more impact if you are outperforming your lane opponent. Now they get to ban away 2 of 369's picks on top of getting this Renekton. They should feel very confident in Bin's ability to play up there.
Yeah, it also really encourages that Ambessa to go into the jungle, because Ambessa into Renekton is such a difficult matchup for Ambessa. So I think BLG I mean, showing a lot of early game priority between Renekton, potential Poke Varus, and an Orianna going in the top esports who, if it is Poke Varus, do have some nice scaling between the Ambessa, the Jhin, which is scale into that matchup, but is going to need to find a way to survive early. So curious if they get a bridge into Renekton. Sion going to be banned out for 369. Cassante taken away. So those big tanks that can play into the Renekton going to be removed for 369.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're going to want to do if you're trying to set Bin up for success here, right? You do try to just take away some of those really reliable tanks that 369 has kind of made his name on. Is historically one of the best top laners in the region, and you just try to get that veteran rock in the top lane for top esports off of his comfort, especially when Cream is already on that comfort in the form of this Akali, getting himself a nice matchup in the mid lane. Now looking at supporter jungle for BLG. Covering that Pantheon, and they might just pick that one up for the likes of Shun.
Man, we're playing fast on the side of BLG. As Renata taken away, that tells me it's likely to be a Fengyue Nautilus coming in, or Rel.
Right, 369.
Yeah, it's got to be one or the other, as 369 gets his choice of tank. Going to be the Ornn. Very happy, frankly, into the Renekton. But Braum would be a nice pickup, kind of cute. You can block that Call of the Forge God with the shield backwards, can be quite valuable this game. So could be an option for On if he wants it. The Shen would really help play towards that top side, which we did see, but frankly, I think the Braum's the move this game. If you take away that Call of the Forge God, that makes it a lot more difficult for top esports to engage, because they're kind of looking to have that hold the front line. You want Rail to approach on flanks. You'd love for Akali to approach on flanks, and then collapse when that ult comes down. You remove that threat with the Unbreakable for Braum. I think it makes the execution of the rest of the team fight for top esports quite difficult. So I do like this pickup for On. Also curious if we actually get an on-hit Varus, because you're playing into Ornn. It's a really tanky team for top esports, and one that frankly on-hit Varus could somewhat interact with. So I'm curious if the Braum actually indexes Viper to go on-hit this game.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to see a whole lot of it. We always talk about how it's an alternate build that's available and could be picked in certain situations.
If it's not on hit, I think the clock that BLG has this game is very narrow and very quick. Because I just cannot see a world where Poke Varus does anything to Ornn, Ambessa, Akali later on. So I'm really curious if with the Braum, Viper does end up going for on hit. I think it's an option this game.
Yeah, I mean, 369 on the Ornn, too. This is a classic 369 pick, right? It's one of the most played in his entire career, even though it's kind of fallen by the wayside over the course of more recent tank preferences, right? You saw in that second phase of bans, they take away the Sion, they take away the Cassante. Those are kind of the new hotness in terms of what kind of tanks you're going to play up in the top lane. But back in 369's day, it was all about that Ornn baby, and it stays up there in his top 3 most played champions to this very day. He's going to snap it on up, but you're going to see some of the weaknesses firsthand here in the fact that it's going to have a little bit of a rougher lane up against the Renekton, and it's going to very, very possibly hosed by this Braum, assuming that On is able to have his wits about him, stay in position to be able to use the Unbreakable to delete that ramp.
Yeah, I think On, if I'm On, I'd be very disciplined about throwing that Unbreakable out backwards to deny that Call of the Forge God. I think that's going to be a big key for BLG as we dive into this first game. Excited to hop into this one, Gordo. Let's see if Top Esports can take it to the team that is #1 in the standings for LPL at the moment.
Excited for this one, Cubby. Welcome to Summoner's Rift as we get on to the very first game of tonight's series. Minion Wave's already crashing in mid, and Fengyue already trying to create some control in this bottom side bush. Does look like both junglers going to be starting up on the top side this game, so perhaps some early involvement and some early scuffling for the scuttle.
Now, I know that BLG have been the kings of the LPL, as we are going to get a heal burned for a not-so-hot trade for Jiachi and Fengyue. Nothing too interesting with the builds. Outside of it is going to be that Poke Varus. So I really feel like this window for BLG, I mean, they're going to run out of damage against Ornn pretty quickly. Ornn's going to feel so happy going for that armor, going up against the top side, the Unstoppable to help really play against that Renekton plus Pantheon. I think going to be nice. As we'll see if Top Esports can really make the most of it.
Yeah, maybe something to be said for the the Black Cleaver Bruisers in the Pantheon and the Renekton. But Certainly not, the class of champion you would choose to deal with an Ornn. Perhaps, though, an opportunity to focus up on that top side. You can kind of bury these sorts of tank top laners to a little bit of a greater degree than you previously could as we get into a bit of a pause here. This is something that a lot of top laners are talking about. If you, watch pros over in NA, you got to hear Fudge talk about it. You get to hear folks saying it on the LEC broadcast earlier. Anywhere you can find top laners talking. A lot of them are kind of iterating this same idea that they are able to just build up a greater lead than they previously could just because of the addition of those plates, the fact that you can get that bonus experience, the ability to go aggressive summoners in the right sorts of situations. That may not apply in every game, but all sorts of these factors kind of combining together, letting you, if you do find a lead on this Renekton for Bin, he can really run away with it, perhaps to a degree that he might not have been able to in 2025.
We'll see. Again, I really think they're going to need it. Just like damage later on, this is a Poke, Varus, Orianna, Renekton, Pantheon. Your damage runs out post-20. I think that really you're spiking pre-20 with this comp. So this is a style that BLG loves to play. And this is really the style that got Shun in the lineup for 2024 Worlds. If you're going to go back and think about this team with Elk, it was about, Shun playing the Kindred, playing the Nidalee, his 2 pocket picks, which are all built around getting up in the face of the enemy jungler, getting that information, and then when you give that information to players like Bin and Knight, they can take care of business just given how talented they've been as solo laners. That's really the style that they went with Shun for in 2024, and one that I feel like is a lot more difficult to execute in Fearless Draft, because you might be able to do it in Game 1 when you have all champions at your disposal to pick from, but it's harder to do that later on, and also, with Fearless, you aren't getting the same practice reps of what it takes to drill these early games as much as possible to make sure that they are clean when you are playing for dives and such volatile plays early on. I feel like that did take a lot of the power away from BLG last year, as this was a team that, for me, when they got sent from the LPL to Worlds, I felt like this was the team that was all brawn, no brain, and AL was the team that was all brain, no brawn, right? And we did see BLG really fail because they did lack the brains necessary to go compete at Worlds, as they kind of had a flop of a tournament. And I think that this BLG, we're going back to an old iteration where it was all about how many winning lanes can we draft and can Shun pressure. And I want to see if BLG can really adapt outside of that. I think that, last night, they showed some good moments later in fights. They had to bounce back in Game 2, and Game 3 was pretty stable early on. They had to blow it up later on. For me, those are positive things for BLG, because for me, if they aren't just butting their heads against that brick wall and trying to make it break, because a lot of the times they are the juggernaut, this is a team that's struggling for me.
And a lot of the directions of the 2026 patch feel like they are indexing more towards the brawn side of things.
That is
right?
true.
And in addition to that, you bring in Viper. Elk, no pushover, got himself, I think, a lot of credit over his time with the squad. But it's Viper. Yeah,
it is Viper.
I think all the classic Griffin guys still carry with them this aura, and Viper definitely among them in just how talented and how well respected he is for what he's able to do in the team fights, what he's able to do in the lane. His time on HLE, very, very well established. How good he can be in that position up against some of the best in the world, and now getting to join up with Knight getting to play mid, with Bin getting to play top, and all of these players now being incentivized more than ever to play in their straight-up lane matchups, stay in their individual lanes, and build up advantages and get rewarded for it. Viper's going to get more items, Knight and Bin are going to get more levels. It just feels good all around.
It does. And it also feels good to get back into the game. Stop talking about us. I will say, kind of curious, 369 went for bone plating in this matchup, and I don't think that's great. You're going to spend a lot of time low against the Renekton, a likely second win. At least he's maxing out the value on some of those cookies, because he had to eat them going low. Spin burns the flash, keeps the pressure on at the top lane.
Yeah, this is exactly what you're looking for, and this is the alternate win con up against the Ornn, trying to just build up that lead in the one-on-one, maybe even get an opportunity for a path back on up there from Mr. Shun. We'll find out if he does find the opportunity to do that before too long, as he is rounding out his first clear as we speak, maybe a little bit behind pace of the Ambessa, as Nayu going to be in that area as well. We're going to find out. Nayo already in the river, but Knight coming down to try to support. It is pre-level 6 Akali, limited in how much support they can provide, but the speed of the Ambessa just proves too much. Nayo going to claim that bottom side scuttler.
Making his way down here, too, for the wraparound. This wave was pushed in hard by the Jin Rel. It's now bounced away from BLG. But Viper saying it's only 3 creeps. That does mean that that wave is guaranteed to push back into BLG. And Viper is going to be all right taking the base. So, going to be a wave that's a little bit further back and away from him. But, well, base. And Jiachi will read it as well, so he matches. And they're going to take advantage of the home cards back. Now, Shun was looking for the Raptor respawn, wasn't able to find it, but might find Cream mid here.
Yeah, was looking for the recall, decided better of it, wants to show up towards mid instead. Cream going to be able to flash back towards his turret, and does manage to escape the approaching Shun. So it is a successful move away from Cream, and he doesn't even have to exit lane despite having to blow the flash. So going to be able to stay here and try to hit that level 6 before he gets back to base.
Still for BLG. Interested to see what Shun ends up prioritizing between the Drakes and the Grubs. Do you think that Drake's a little bit more power with where the game sits at the moment? And you got to imagine that with the Poke Varus, they're going to have that bot lane power that they can use to back it up. But I just really want to focus on BLG and some of the timers that they do decide to take in this game. Just because if they are not able to convert on those timers, I really feel like they run out of gas as this game goes on. So for me, eyes on them to see if they can execute early.
Feng Yue going to try to start off this fight in the bottom side. Holds Viper still, gets the nice crash down back away, and they chunk Viper to about half for their efforts. Both junglers on this side of the map. As we may see Nayo try to make a way down towards there as well. At least getting his way over towards the Dragon, trying to take advantage of the health lead that his bot lane has accrued. Speaking of accruing leads, though, Bin up about 2 waves worth of CS here as he looks to crash another one in towards 369's tower, and that's going to reward him a decent little chunk of a gold lead.
Dragon's been started, but Shun's going to be here. They know it's been pulled out.
Half HP. Shun looking to approach. Throws out the Comet Spear.
It's
that was fully charged,
BLG.
but doesn't find a target.
Yeah.
They will smite it down, and BLG thinks better of participating in this skirmish. So they're going to have to back away. Nice move there by Nayo in the early game, taking advantage of the lead his bot lane's built up. And there's an all-in from Cream in the mid lane, going to expend that perfect execution nice and early. Doesn't have enough damage to kill off Knight, but does create a favorable trade for himself while he's still got members of the bottom river.
He's just doing that on timers. He's going to have it up for Grubs. Nayo, though, does ding 6. Going to get Shun.
Yeah, but we're already Shockwave coming through onto Cream. Cream going to be taken very low. A flash in from Shun, but doesn't end up connecting the Comet Spear yet again. A flash in from Nayo, but he's going to fall on down. Cream very low on HP as well. Feng Yue can't even finish off the crash down in time. Cream doing his best, trying to pump out damage with the kunai, but he's going to fall down. And Viper able to clean up the rest on Jiachi. 4 for 1 BLG.
I mean, it's Nayo that ding 6. I thought it could have been advantage there for Top Esports, but BLG wiped the floor with them in this fight. And Knight has busted out a huge lead against Cream now in the mid lane. As this crab goes over, Nayo hits 6. I thought this would have been advantageous given how low Knight is, but Nayo gets destroyed by Shun in the initial engage. And when Shun gets pinged here, I think that if the public execution doesn't catch on and it hits Shun, they might be able to take him down.
Yeah.
But instead, I mean, the Jin just doesn't have damage early on. Cream is ultless. And frankly, I think given the strength of the Pantheon Braum, it's just a fight that should not have been taken by Top Esports, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, imperfect execution from Shun there as well, missing that first Comet Spear, but it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Able to fight their way on through it. Knight low on mana doesn't particularly matter because Cream's low on health, and very, very well played by BLG across the board, and Top Esports just taking an advisable fight. Now, as you said, a significant lead for Knight found here, and definitely going to be rocking it a little bit more once he is able to get on towards that rod of ages, but he's most of the way there.
Where's our cream of the crop gauge at? Right, is it still out of 3? Yeah, it's still out of 3. Okay, it's not looking great at the moment. As cream of the crop's not going well for him in the mid lane. It's not going well for Top Esports in the bottom lane either. As some of the LDL power here, Gordo, not paying off. That's an easy kill for BLG.
No, not at all. Feng Yue going to fall on down in the 2-on-2, and Viper already with a 3-assist, 1-kill advantage at the bottom side, going to have an even greater one now as, ooh, maybe an inopportune time, but chat about Top Esports' LDL stars in Nayo and Feng Yue.
Yeah, these guys were the core in LPL with, I believe it was the BLG youth team, yeah, Gordo? Where it was Nayo and Feng Yue?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the players that couldn't make it on BLG now end up on Top Esports. And I mean, to be fair, I think Nayo's a jungler that I'm excited about. And these guys did get major accolades in the LDL. But step up to the LPL, it's a big one. The fact that Nayo went from Group Nirvana teams to Group Ascension team in 1 year, I think is pretty impressive. Really speaks to what he's able to bring behind the scenes. But that said, we're talking more about that in the actual game at the moment, Gordo, because it's a bit of a stomp.
Yeah, it's starting to run away with it on BLG's side. They do pick up all 3 grubbies there for Shun. And still, I mean, we haven't checked in top lane much lately, but Bin is building up that one-on-one advantage. Another interrupt on a Cream's recall. Yeah, maybe the cream of the crop graphic going down to 2 here as he struggles up against this Orianna and starting to find himself down multiple waves of CS. Knight going to be rocking 5 stacks of the Dark Seal. He managed to sneak that one in there before the last fight. That's huge.
Yeah, I think Knight's gonna run away with this game. He's got 3 grubs too, and Cream is just running for the hills.
No, don't do it to him.
It is the LPL. This is Knight's region. It just is what it is. Knight just runs things here. Cream got the best of him in Split 1 last year. That's the only best of 5 win he has against Knight, who is 6-1 against Cream. As yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like earlier on, even that dragon that Top Esports was able to get, I feel like BLG were kind of posturing just because it would have denied CS away. Okay, well,
yeah,
that's a freebie. Yeah,
well done. Yeah, the Call of the Forge God can't clear out the wave in time. And in comes Grand Starfall to clean up another one of the solo lanes of BLG, starting to run away with it. And these are the veteran players from Top Esports we were saying we needed to step up. Game number 1 not going their way.
Yeah, not much the 369 could do in that scenario. That's a nice timer set up by Shun. Mid, though, is gotten a little bit too far out of control for Comfort. As, I mean, Cream is a fantastic Akali player, guys, at home. He's a very, very, very good Akali player. Knight is also a very good Orianna player, and the lead that he has gotten and what he's been able to do with it, I mean, if you're a mid laner watching at home, I would really watch about how they tried to bleed out XP, even the Pantheon timer to take away that flash. And that ult trade that Cream had was just not it.
Yeah, they're just going to take this fight onto Feng Yue, and he's going to fall down right off the bat. Public Execution connects on the backside, but the rest of the damage of BLG, it's just too much to handle. No chance of executing a carry for Cream, as he'll be curdled. 3 kills over to BLG as they claim themselves the map.
I don't know if Jackie Wolf wants to be a part of this one, as this is a beatdown, Gordo. You know, yeah. We were like, the first series that we had for LPL Gordo, it was a Group Nirvana match. We were like, you know what? This is Ultra Prime. We don't feel like this is going to be that close. Yeah, this is more not close than that one, which also was not close. As BLG picked all early game, we were questioning them being able to play on their timers. You know, is it good enough? BLG is saying, yeah, we can play the way that we play as BLG. 6K gold lead early on. I mean, even Knight is moving in there with On just to make sure that he couldn't get hit by the flip on Cream. 0 damage available for Top Esports to get through these big carries as BLG continues to run away with this one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't mean to poo-poo a good performance from BLG, but they didn't even need to play on their timers. Top Esports played on their timers and gave them a 4-for-1 right at the start. And, you know, from there on, it gets a lot easier to execute.
Embrace the darkness. No, it's you were correct about that. Sadly, our young players, you know, might have picked the inopportune moment. Also, all-in fights when you have a Jhin, usually not the fight you're going to look for early on, too.
Not at all.
No ult Akali, you know.
It's tough. It's tough to be pre-level 6
tough.
Akali, man. Listen, I play this champion a lot, and it's not a matchup that you feel good in until you hit that level 6. And now that you're down 2 levels and already rank 2 Shockwave is coming out, and 6 stacks of Dark Seal doesn't feel good either. That's going to be, you know, basically 2 more Amp Tomes in your inventory. Knight truly in a dominant position this game, and he is one among many, as you can see, at 1K plus gold leads for basically everybody else on the map. 369 forced to flash in the one-on-one there again for those keeping track at home, and 369 kind of just playing spectator League of Legends this game, and it's not in a position where his team's going to be able to bail him out.
If that flash looked goofy for you guys at home, I think that he was predicting that Shun was on that side of the map. Shun was actually, he got his ult timer back up and was off a deploy. He was just bot, but in fog. If that one looks goofy, I think that he was expecting that he was going to get Panth ulted again, which frankly kind of makes sense in that timer. But that said, 369 now being without flash, it's going to encourage Shun to head up there even more next time. But at the moment, Shun getting up in the face of Nio.
Yeah, getting good damage down on towards that Ambessa. Nio going to have to fall back underneath the tower. Going to have some backup from the rest of the squad. Cream, yeah, looking to potentially find a target to assassinate. Look at that damage output from Shun, though. Feng Yue at risk of just falling down, has to flash back out. Cream going to be the one taking the majority of the damage in the front line now, as he does chunk Shun out low, and there's going to need to be a chance to try to find something here from Top Esports, but it's just not presenting itself. Arrows still flying in from Viper, keeping Cream nice and low.
Yeah, Shun is playing without a care in the world, and he can afford to do so at the moment. He is very far ahead on this Pantheon. And while no blood was spilled there, a lot of tools were taken away from Top Esports, not to mention that bot outer turret almost falling to Knight in the process as well, as he is opening up almost full 2-level lead over Cream. Cream just picked up that wave, but it's pretty much a level and a half in Knight's favor. And no signs of slowing down.
Yeah, Knight's at over 10 CS per minute, of course, and is not showing any signs of slowing down. As you said there, he is just bullying the assassin in the one-on-one, and if that's just not a signifier of how this game has gone, I don't know what is. BLG truly with a major advantage in every role. It's on them to make a major mistake and let Top Esports back into this game, and so far, not looking like that's going to present itself, although Bin trying to get a little aggressive, has to flash away from the public execution. But that's both like ultimates on cooldown, and here comes the cavalry. Shun ulties in off the Grand Starfall, and they will be able to take down top lane turret.
I mean, Knight TP'd up here, and they can continue the push as Knight has a solo 3.3k gold lead over his opponents at the 16-minute mark here, guys. If this was a singular lead, we'd be pretty happy with it. It just all happens to be on a singular individual in Knight, who has bought the Magi, so we might all do some learning here, Gordo. As first one to learn, Jhachi no flash.
Yeah, he's definitely don't get hit by the shockwave, and it looks like that's a lesson he's already taken to heart. But now without access to that summoner, going to just be all the more vulnerable for follow-up fights. This next dragon, in the eyes of BLG, Top Esports, having already gotten themselves 2. You know, this would be something to play for. They're going to try to jump on a Bin. He doesn't have access to the Dominus, but he does have access to a very powerful Knight coming to help him out on the flank. But still, it's basically a 4 versus 2. Bin falling lower and lower. They will finally be able to get Nio on top of him, but now here's an assassination attempt on towards the assassin herself. Cream falls below half HP, but will be able to hide out in the fog and get themselves out to safety. It's a numbers advantage for Top Esports, but the health bars maybe less so.
Well, you know, when you can't really pass the wall that Nio's on, which I don't know what that wall's called. We'll just call it Gromp Blue Wall.
Yep.
When Dragon's up, I think that your odds of contesting Dragon are not great. Now, the only positive for Top Esports this game is that Nio in the review after this one's going to be like, Coach, you got the first 2 Drakes. This game's not on me, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And
I'm with him.
Fair, the first fight, I don't know who made that call for Top Esports. It was a bad one. Do I think that was necessarily, like, is this game fully on Nio? No, not really. I think this is a team loss for deciding to take
Nio
that
is
fight.
the one who ticked 6, so he may have been the one calling for the fight.
No,
somebody's got to tell him no. It can't be just his fault.
Yeah, Freak gave him 6, therefore Freak baited him in.
I'm with that. yeah, that
And
checks out
Marksman's
to me.
buffed. I mean, how, Freak's a Marksman main, guys. Marksman got buffed this patch. Like, how are we not flaming Freak for giving ADs 6 items?
I mean, Viper looked pretty buffed in that early skirmish. Didn't even have one item done yet, but still was able to have a pretty big outsized impact against the reloading Jhin in the one-on-one. And yeah, that all kind of just takes us to where we are now. I know this fight was like 10 minutes ago now, but Top Esports never recovered. They find themselves falling further and further behind from these snowballed advantages. It's a 3K individual lead on Knight. This is insane.
Gordo, I'm less interested about the game. I'm more interested on this thread that I just figured out for myself, which is Freak's own personal welfare fair plan for his main role in AD carry. What he did to his own role, I mean, he just... The economy he gave himself is pretty insane for this season. I don't even think about this. The fact that we haven't seen, or I haven't seen any Freak jokes related to the Marksman and 6 items about how the lead game designer is like buffing up his main role, I feel like the community is really lacking on this one.
I think it's because everybody feels like top lane is so strong, right? They ascend now, right? They get past level 18. They hit Super Saiyan 4. They go even further beyond.
That's true.
And
we're still
that's
cooking
where
up something for level 20. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where most of the attention has fallen. That and mid laners not getting anything that feels new.
That's fine. Mid's too OP anyway. Mid's always OP. You play in the middle of the map. We don't have to buff mid.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Good job, Freak. But AD, 6 side, bonus gold and all the mage creeps? Come on. It's a little too obvious there.
The point is that it's not new, not that it's not deserved or needs to be more powerful, I think.
Yeah.
But,
you know.
I mean, inner turret, by the way, still worth a boatload of gold, about to fall down to BLG. They get themselves another 1,000 in the bank or so. And Top Esports are left trying to roam as a full squad, trying to make something happen. On just chucks out Glacial Fissure in the middle of nowhere, connects onto nothing, but the siege will continue nonetheless.
Yeah, unless BLG does something catastrophic, I think that Gordo and I can kind of keep talking about whatever we'd like to do, especially if we're not going to even have a front row seat to public executions, not even honoring any medieval times Top Esports is. As that used to be a community event, not so with Nio, though, as that skill shot goes wide, and the mid-inner turret does fall. 369 TPing to his own inner turret, as BLG has knocked down this inner, and is rotating to at least pressure the last one, as Finn gets a plate for himself. And BLG, you know, it might be time for a T1 Baron BLG, and something that I feel like BLG historically has done very, very well as a team. It is taking Baron and ending games. I feel like BLG is elite at doing that as a team. The 20-minute Baron's up now. I would love if they could, you know, maybe pull a T1 Baron, be elite at ending the game as BLG is themselves, and take us out of our own misery here, Gordo, which is covering this very non-competitive game at the moment.
Oh, this is a TP from Cream showing up in the middle of 3 members, by the way. Uh-oh. Will be able to sneak his way out of there in time. He's on magic resist boots. Does get to get himself a little bit of a shield to survive against Knight's damage, but that's both TPs blown to the top lane, just trying to stop the inner turret from falling down. And, you know, Bin is side laning on the bottom side. That does mean, well, he's already got his quest fully stacked up, so I guess it doesn't matter. At this stage of the game, he's just going to look to keep on hammering on these inhibitor turrets, and already a plate's fallen down there, so BLG just keeping the pressure on across the map, and finally some on my way pings are showing up towards this Baron. It's almost like they forgot that it spawns before 25 minutes now.
Yeah, they're focused on taking the inner that now has plates. That's the new piece of eye candy that they're looking at the moment. As Shun gonna maybe be going on Cream here, as he's the same level as the enemy mid.
Stepping on up, turret falling lower and lower, getting these bags of gold attached to each of the plates. Shun coming in on the side, finds a stun out of Cream. Cream down below half. Chains of Corruption goes wide. We're just chucking ultimates wherever on the BLG side this game, and we'll call it a zoning ulti, as Top Esports have to back away, and they give up their last inner turret.
I think Viper and On got a little bit bored there and decided to press R, because frankly, if they still had those Rs, it would make the upcoming Baron easier. I think we're going to set our sights onto the Dragon, prevent that soul point from going over to Top Esports, take away that win con. I think it's a smart move here for BLG, as they're going to hedge their bets and make sure they don't give Top Esports that last-ditch effort to unlock a Hex Soul for themselves, which definitely not something you want to give over. So I think BLG.
We're not making it to Hex Soul this game, Cubby. I'm gonna.
I don't think so either. But that's why BLG is going to make sure they take this dragon, because they don't want to make sure that Top Esports has any chance to win this game, which Hexel would somehow give them a chance to win this game, even in spite of the deficit, potentially.
Yeah, starting off onto it, looks like they should be able to grab this one uncontested. Would be inadvisable for Top Esports to show up to this. And then, and only then, maybe we'll get to see an attempt at this early Baron. 10k gold lead. Doesn't get much better than this for BLG. Fengyue trying to take the engage onto the opposing support, but On going to be able to absorb that without too much pressure. Now Shun showing on up with the stun. Will get the first kill of the fight. Cream exhausted. Flash forward from Shun, holding down the Akali. Follow-up stun from Bin. Cream going to be able to sneak his way away in time. Knight flashes forward. Can't find a shockwave target, but 369 left out
Jun's
to dry. Shun was able to hunt down Cream. Finally, he'll drop down to Xiaqi's damage, but Nayo up next on the menu, trying to fall back to the tower, but Knight will hunt him down, and Knight will claim another kill. 4 fall for Top Esports, and soon so will their base.
Who needs Baron endgame if you're BLG? Just, you know, drop all your ports, drop all your ults, and be just okay. As BLG, you know what? I think on one hand, this is the BLG that we're used to seeing. It's good to see them in the new year. Just full court press, you know, pedal to the metal. On the other side, Top Esports without Kanavi, this is kind of why I put more of an emphasis on 369 and Cream. Because for me, Top Esports being this lost, that's not on Kanavi versus Nayo. For me, it's on the members that are still with this team. And it's very clear that, like, this team just isn't the same without Kanavi. I mean, look, we don't have access to comms. I don't speak, you know, the languages that these guys are speaking to communicate with. But it was so clear, even without knowing that, for Top Esports the past couple years, this was a team that ran through Kanavi. He was the one that dictated how the early game was played and pretty much how Top Esports played the game from start to finish. Look, I don't think that's on Nayo, Jachi, or Fengyue to really cover for that. I think it's more so on the two teammates that were playing with Kanavi for the past 2 years that needs to bring some of what Kanavi brought to that team and do so for Top Esports. It's just clear that like, that's missing from Top. The direction is missing. I know that this game got out of control early on, but... Oh, hold on.
Breaking out now. Shun still at pretty high HP thanks to the invulnerability. And here comes
Right,
Bin on the flank. One falls down, and Cream trying to find an execution target, but nobody getting even remotely low enough for that to be a possibility. BLG clean up 3 once again. Do not lose a single body. And now it's time for the Baron, but it's after 25 minutes, Cubby. It very well may have forgotten about the respawn timer.
Well, I didn't forget about the enemy jungler, as Nayo is going to fall to that Orianna. And, I mean, kind of returning to what I was saying before. Like, again, guys, Top Esports, this is a team that ran through Kanavi. He's not there, and I feel like the members that are still there really haven't picked up the slack. And I think that, for me, is the concerning part about Top. And, look, 369, I think we have a lot of history of 369 playing the game at a high level, like both as an individual and macro-wise. But I don't know, like, if he's able to mind control his team to do so or really level up through that, or what Top Esports needs to play a more cohesive game. But this game got out of hand quite quickly. I think they're comp from behind. You know, Jin's not the damage that's great for fighting from behind, especially into this beefier front line that Bin and Shun have, being ahead. And it felt like Top didn't really have a way to play the game or didn't know how to play this game. And that's my great concern with Top moving forward, because when Kanavi was on this team, we always knew they were going to play with some sort of direction through him. And right now, Top Esports just seems lost as a team.
Yeah, not a clear path back into the game here other than to try to contest for those dragons, and they have been well and truly prevented from doing just that. Nayo can't find any angles to get into these fights, and now I just don't think they do enough damage, right? Even if they find the perfect engage, it's going to take somebody to half HP, and then they're going to be wiped before they can say much about it. Bin finds the stun onto Nayo. He tries to dangle out the public execution, but nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Knight will take him down for his 5th kill of the game as the inhibitors start to fall. And here comes Grand Starfall. Shun isolates Cream, forces him back into the fountain. Fengyue going to fall down tonight for an unofficial double kill in the extended trade. Jachi throws down the curtains, but will not be able to make anybody drop away. away. It's going to be a clean fight from BLG, a fountain dive from Bin, looking for the clean ace, and BLG will find it as they close out game number 1.
Sheesh. You know what? BLG, sometimes they tend to make the LPL look like that, but even for BLG, that was impressive. Knight Oriana, you know, they were missing Knight during Demacia Cup. We kind of wrote it off for BLG because of that. Yeah, it turns out when you get the best player in the league, who has been the best player in the league pretty much since he entered, back in your lineup, things get a little bit easier. And BLG, early on in this season, looks like they're firing on all cylinders. And that style that we know this iteration of BLG can play, that 4 out of the 5 really made their bread and butter, which was the full court press style, in full effect here early on in Season 16.
Absolutely here. I mean, another highlight game from Knight. That's going to make it 3 in a row for him. We don't talk about that as your game to open up the series last night. And as long as we ignore that one, this guy has been on an absolute tear. It really, again, he got funneled a little bit from that early trade in the bottom side, but also has shown what has made him such a standout player for so long. There's mechanical excellence, there's good performance in the trades, good understanding of his matchups, and also just knowing where to be to hoover up the most gold possible on the map. He was 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K up in no time after getting that small lead and not letting it go.
Yeah, I think, how do I want to say? I was coaching earlier in the day, Gordo. Shout out to Respawn and Milk, who are putting on a combine here in North America for some fresher folks. A lot of players that haven't attempted OQs before or aren't in NACL yet, which is the only reason why I'm coaching, because I can't really help out with the NACL guys. But I was talking about mid lane timers early on. And if you're a mid laner who maybe wants to get a little bit better at the game at home, watching how Knight played that Akali matchup against Cream, I think the timer that he called Shun on, that got Akali's flash out, that pretty much makes it so that Oriana's under minimal threat against an Ambessa jungle early on too. And then how they were able to push that lead or advantage, and then the oopsie of Cream trading his ult kind of for fun of the way after the dragon and not having access to that for the fight. It really made that first fight that was opted into by Top Esports just look so abysmal when you do have Akali with no ult and you have Shun on that early Pantheon who was really able to run those early fights. Shun did a very good job of piloting the Pantheon and playing pedal to the metal throughout that game and that one. So props to him for keeping that game going.
Certainly, definitely a composition where BLG needed to get ahead early, and they got the opportunity and they seized it, and they stayed ahead throughout the entirety of the game. Top Esports. It feels like we don't get to draw a lot of conclusions from that game because of how quickly everything went wrong, and that also feels like that's what we said about the JDG series. So now we're 3 games into the season, and we've yet to get to see Top Esports put much together. I fear that if they can't try to figure something out in draft, try to figure out some kind of game plan in game number 2 of this series, we might be leaving 2 series in at the end of the night for Top Esports without really much to say in any direction about this team. And it's Group Ascend, right? All the competition is going to be tough. If you can't put up fights against really good teams, you're not going to have a lot of mid or low tier teams to play against.
I mean, look, this is a team where at the moment, I think that they're a play-in target to beat. and they're going to get seeded against the Group Ascend team with how the cookies crumble at the moment. But yeah, I think that this is just... This is a team where I'm looking for any sense of life, but I'm mostly looking for it from 369 or especially Cream in the mid lane. Again, I don't think 369 could do a lot in that game. I think that Cream, the way that he got behind in that game is what I'm concerned about. And yes, it's a part of the draft. Like, Top have to eat some stuff early on. They can't really take the fight. They did. But, you know, Cream needs to go from being a younger player on this team to a more veteran player that at least has a veteran voice or appears to be a more consistent player within the team. It can help some of the young people around him make sure that the games are easier for him. A lot of the times we talk about when you have new players, it's really tough to go from playing, solo queue to 5s, from going to playing LDL to LPL. That's a giant jump in knowledge that, these players are trying to make. You are the one that have been in that seat for the last 2 years with Top Esports and 3 years within this league for the mid lane going back to OMG. You got to be able to play well enough to help the new guys that come up. If not, it's hard to be valuable as an older player as time goes on. You haven't really made a difference, right? And your experience, that's experience that those young players don't have and can't match. And yeah, I mean, if that you're not a consistent factor for them, you're not an asset for them, that's what makes things hard, and things appear to be quite hard for Top Esports right now.
Yeah, definitely. And, this is one of those matchups where, again, if you're not able to have targets to assassinate, it's hard to do very much for Kareem, but you definitely do need to see him be able to kind of guide the rest of these players. You mentioned coming up from LDL is tough. Even in Nayo's case, coming up from Group Nirvana to Group Ascend, a big jump up in quality of play here. And he had some good ideas earlier on. You don't hate conceptually the idea of trying to take a fight with that one level advantage, but clearly just didn't work out for the team comp, and that's where you need these veteran voices to kind of call him off. And yes, you got control over the early dragons. That's a good first step, but the fact that that fight was so poorly advised is really going to be what is going to be the story of game number 1. You're going to hope that they can find a way to not repeat it in game number 2.
Yeah, definitely something that I think is a little bit unique with Jhin in the game. Like, just Jhin at that moment, I don't think you ever really want to fight because you're pre-6, and Jin's not for deeps, right? Jin's for just kind of chipping away at your health bar over time, and then playing around your windows because he's very window-based between the W, the R, and your 4th shot. So, yeah, a bit of a misconceptualizing oopsie from top that BLG, a team that, I mean, again, the majority of this team is usually competing for international events. Even looking at Viper as and play with his crew and what he's been able to do on his own accord, whether that's in the LPL or in the LCK, as Viper has spent some time bouncing between both throughout the last few years. So, yeah, BLG, the team that I think has a lot more class and pedigree behind them, definitely showing Top Esports that was the case for both the new members and the members that do have class and pedigree in their own right on Top Esports from that game 1.
Yeah, we talked about Brains and Brawn earlier in the series, and this was all Brawn all the time, and BLG definitely made good on the promises of how individually skilled these players are. They were able to find huge leads across the board. Again, we talk over and over and over again about that early bot river fight, but Bin had no problem developing a nice early lead all on his own. He was forcing out flashes one-on-one over and over again up against 369 on a blind Renekton pick, right? He took it at the end of round 1 of picks. Yes, you got to do some bans to defend it, taking away the Scion, taking away the Cassante, some of those safer tanks, but definitely a shame for 369 that he was not really able to be competitive in that one-on-one, maybe showing some of why that Ornn isn't the huge pick right now in the current meta so far in this season, and it's because stuff like that Renekton is just going to ram that lead down your throat so fast and so hard.
Yeah, one that, again, Top Esports going to have to bounce back from. Knight wins the POG, I think rightfully so. That mid lane lead was gross. It was 3K around the 15-minute mark. As an individual, that is pretty filthy there for Knight, as he has quite the game for himself in the mid lane.
As he did, yeah. Again, it's just damage per gold at 201% is crazy, by the way. It's just building himself up so much of a gold lead and making good on it.
Man. He's so good. He's just always a treat to watch, Yep. Well, you get that treat to watch this time around, Gordo. You're watching one of the best mids in the world play.
Absolutely.
Over here. And playing well.
It's a joy to be here. It's a bunch of fun to get to watch Knight actually play and perform, and that's definitely what we're going to be looking for each and every time BLG plays. We'll see if he's able to keep the streak alive coming into game number 2 against Top Esports. We are about to throw it to a quick break, but I do want to shout out Coffee. If you would like to support LPL English, consider becoming a Coffee member. Coffee is the best way to support the LPL English project, since the vast majority of your contributions will go directly to the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent and content creators. Subscribe to our Coffee linked in chat to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions to our unique on-site interviews, and to continue to let us bring you players like Knight week in and week out. That said, we're going to throw it to a quick break, but we will be right back for draft number 2 before you know it, so do not go anywhere. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the LPL here on LPL English, where BLG made quick work of Top Esports in game number 1. Top Esports, we're continuing to look to see them show up and be able to contest some of these top teams with their new rookie-centric roster, but 3 games in, and we have not gotten to see very much of it so far here, Cubby.
Yeah, it's been a lot of poor League of Legends being played across the board for Top Esports. I really don't know what else to say. Like, this is a team that does not look like they're playing as a team of 5 yet. And that needs to change. We're going to be playing in Group Ascend for the LPL. So, we'll see if Top Esports can bring something out against BLG in this game, too. I mean, look, on one hand, you can say that Game 1 was over so quickly that you can kind of write it out the window. On the other hand, it was a stomp. So we'll see if Top Esports can bounce back. We do have a lot of stomps that happen sometimes in the LPL. Of course, the game is a lot more snowbally, I will say, this year too. But Top try and get one of those snowballs going in their favor, which has not happened yet this year.
Yeah, definitely. And, not really able to make, it felt like, great use of their position in the draft here, right? They were on red side, but they didn't get last pick, counter pick. They were first pick, as we find with the new kind of first selection. What would you call it? Mechanic, concept, format, whatever you want to call it. It felt like they didn't get much out of it, right? They snap up the first pick, Ambessa, which they take in the jungle, and it's like, yeah, it's a somewhat prio pick, but they don't get a lot done with it. Nio not able to pop off and win out on those early skirmishes, and they get a bad matchup in top lane that they kind of opt into. They aren't able to make good on their Akali counter pick in mid, and they end up just kind of outpaced across the board.
Yeah, it was across the board not a good look. So, I don't know. I'm kind of done with that Game 1. I feel like Top Esports is too. Excited to see if Game 2 can bring us something different. Of course, we do have Fearless Draft, much like last year. We also have First Select, if you guys are not familiar with that. We actually split up first pick and blue side. So kind of like football, you get a chance about whether you want the ball first pick or second pick, and what side of the field you want to be on, left or right, blue or red. So you get a choice of one or the other. Other opponent gets choice of whatever they want. Opposite of that, yeah, we got a graphic for it too. Shout out to our production behind the scenes helping us out as we try and not talk about the stomping that was Game 1.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about kind of our expectations pre-series here too, because a major point we wanted to hit on was Knight facing off against Cream. These guys have played against each other a whole bunch in the last couple of years, and it's been Knight favored the vast majority of the time. If you look at 2025 and you're looking at, just game win-loss, you might start to think that Cream was turning things around against a weaker BLG, but now it feels like it might be back to square one with this new Top Esports lineup.
I mean, the big thing for me is just the career best of 5s. Again, Knight, this guy won 4 domestic splits in a row. He won a split last year, too. What he's done in the LPL was just crazy. This region has been run through him, and this matchup, when it comes crunch time, has been run through Knight as well. So, Cream, that first game, Knight ends up with the Pog. Cream gets absolutely blasted. And we'll see if it can be different in Game 2, because it's not like Cream's not a good Akali player. We know he is a fantastic Akali player. So, see if things change. It looks like we're going to have BLG on blue side with first pick this time around. Gordo. So, yeah.
Yes.
Top Esports chose counter pick.
Yes. So, Top Esports choosing to pick second. BLG choosing blue side. I think pretty much everybody who gets choice of side is going to be choosing blue side. That can be well and truly expected.
They banned
full jungle focus in the bans from BLG as they take 3 away from Nio.
Are we going to have an early Talia here for Knight? I'm curious about that. Also wondering if there is maybe a jungle matchup. They're banning Zed to protect if they want to blind jungle. But the Zed ban's an interesting one. As Rumble taken away. And what are we going to open here for BLG? Again, I know Zed and the Talia. Very good matchup if it is going to be Talia mid, but it is just going to be Bin rocking the Scion.
All right, so interested in getting himself one of those high prio tanks. I do want to call out, Azir's available with no Orianna. That's definitely something of interest, probably to both of these mid laners. I know A lot of folks maybe a little soured on Knight Azir after last night's performance and the earlier one up against Weibo, but he's still a plenty good Azir player, and it is still a plenty good champion. But Cream actually has leaned into this pick a lot over the last couple of years, played it a lot more, particularly against Knight. He's usually the one that ends up with it when these two face off against each other in recent years. And this matchup will be no exception. Cream going to snap that one up. It's not his traditional melee mids, but, you know, you're a professional mid laner. You got to play the Azir in 2026.
Yeah, wondering if we get Talia here for Knight. Or, oh, Knight's going to bust out the Ziggs. He does really like this matchup.
Ooh.
Ziggs into Azir. Also gives you a way to actually play around the pillar with that satchel charge you have. So, kind of like the Ziggs here for Knight. Also, I mean, it would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that it could still be flexible with Viper bot if they wanted to put Ziggs down there. We haven't seen a lot of Mage bot yet, but that gold buff can help you get to some of those Mage items earlier, which are really big spikes when you finish them up. I know that we have seen a real lack of that, as 369 point out a special pick for himself, going to be the Mordekaiser. So we have a Scion first pick and 2 Tank Busters locked in immediately by Top Esports topside.
I like this from 369. I mean, I want to see this guy kind of man up, take some matters into his own hands here. He's the most veteran player on Top Esports. I think a lot of people would rank him as the best individual player on Top Esports, and it's time to show up and perform up against BLG. You need to be able to win a lane, and that's certainly not what transpired in game number 1, and it's a huge ask to put on Jiachi and Fang Yue up against Viper and On, and you just saw Knight get a really strong counter pick into Cream on this Ziggs. So it's going to have to be 369, and he says he's up to the task.
I'll be honest, I don't really love the Mordekaiser here. I feel like we have 2 tank busting abilities to throw into Scion. And, I mean, Trundle ult turns him into, I don't want to say paper because it's still Scion, but you're going to take away a lot of resistances. Whereas, of course, Mordekaiser, you are opting into the dishonorable 1v1 because you are playing with an advantage in Death Realm. I don't think that Subjugate and Death Realm synergize, because if we're going to subjugate the Scion, we probably don't want to Death Realm him as well, as I don't believe that that carries over into the different realm. That might be funky. And also, if you subjugate Scion, you probably want everyone hitting him while his resistances are down and not to get 1v1.
Yes.
So I want to see if 369 and Nio can actually coordinate who is being subjugated versus who is being Death Realmed. If not, then that could be an oopsie. As Knight was so bored after game 1, he's just checking in his gotcha game real quick, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, so I don't believe that Death Realm cleanses, you know, like applied status effects, so I think you would still be missing the resistances, but that is kind of putting a hat on a hat, no? Like, you don't really need to...
Death Realm's funky, because, like, there's some things that come along and some things that don't. Like, if you have a pet, it doesn't go into Death Realm, or, like, you Ornhorn doesn't go through. So, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Oh. Will still apply.
I'm hearing from Prod it'll still apply. But I still, I think even then, though, I think your other points are still true, though, right? You want to have everybody hitting him while you have the Subjugate. And I don't think... Listen, Scion's tanky, but you don't need 2 different tank-busting ultimates on the Scion. I think you would like to, you know, have some of those resources to use in other fights. So I think your underlying point's still valid here. Viper looking for one of his favorites, potentially the Kaisa, but it is going to be the Sivir at the end of the day instead, giving them that extra little bit of team fight power in the later game.
I will say, I don't love this bot lane choice for BLG. I know that Viper just had a massive game on Sivir yesterday in that Game 3 win for AL, but I think that you are a bit vulnerable as Alistar here, and the Alistar is very much picked up so that it is not picked into Sivir. You really want, like, to not have Alistar into the Sivir, just given how Spell Shield works and the Alistar combo and the E. So I think that Alistar is very much picked up to be paired with Sivir, so that isn't played into it. But Alistar doesn't exactly have a happy game into the 4 champions that we're showing and now Poppy. So I was kind of expecting a different bot lane, just given that. With that said, having the Sivir move speed to play into a pretty, like, short-range melee front line is quite good. So I think having the bonus move speed is going to make Mordekaiser and Trundle's life a lot harder. And I'm almost a bit surprised that they didn't try and go for something like Karma to just answer that move speed diff with the Mantra Shields, or like at least have a little bit of threat in the lane phase against Sivir Alistar. I do still prefer the BLG draft quite a bit, just because I think that the Mordekaiser Trundle topside is a little funky, and trying to walk through the minefields, trying to walk through a team that's buffed up by Sivir's ult is not going to be an easy task. So really favor where BLG's at after the draft in this one.
And I mean, maybe you could shed some light on this one for me, Cubby. The weird pick to me is the Misfortune for Jiachi. It just feels like it doesn't really have a lot of enablers on the team composition. Nobody really going to be holding down folks for your bullet times. Yeah. You don't have any great targets. Like the Ziggs is going to be able to play at a long enough range that he's probably going to feel fine. Sivir is going to have the movement speed to get out, and you're going to be a sitting duck for Kiana, for Mega Inferno Bomb, for Alistar, for Sion, anytime you try to channel that thing. So I think it's a tough game for Jiachi.
I agree, Gordo, as we dive into this game too and get a chance to hear some of the Jayos.
Indeed. Find out. So we are back on to Summoner's Rift. Nayo, found by Knight, takes a little bit of a rough trade. And this is the closest thing to a level 1 you get in 26.1, Cubby. 3 members show up to the bird camp, they put down a ward, and now it's time to lane.
MF plus Poppy, we'll see if they can get any sort of lane prio going early. As into the Alistar do have the ability to punish, definitely a weaker marksman level 1, but I feel like these summoner spells weren't used super efficiently by top esports bot lane yet again. That heal didn't really get max value, even if we're going to use it with the spellbook to rotate that out soon. So, little inopportune here for top, as they find themselves on the back foot. Start off early here bot lane.
Counter jungling already for Shun, who will make use of that early ward that he threw down, go and steal away the Raptor camp, and now spots Nayo going over to try to do the same to him, so he's going to try to hunt down that Trundle's Viper. Finds a hell of a trade in the bottom lane, and things are already starting to look dicey for Nayo. He's going to have to give up on this game plan real quick.
No, I'm just thinking of top esports, and I'm seeing a failed invade like this, and all I can think to myself is Kanavi would never, you know? Like, if Kanavi's making an invade, that thing's working or we're dying, you know? We're never backtracking it. You know, I mean, a lot of times, again, like that's where Kanavi, I feel like, is a very special player. His ability to plan things out and to have these set paths to see how jungle is played more than just one rotation in advance. Like the ramifications of a play like that moving forward. And here, where are we at as top? Well, bot lane's getting blasted, mid's getting blasted, top's losing early. Mordekaiser needs a few levels of scale into this, but we're losing like 4 out of the 5 roles right now on the map. And it's not exactly where top wants to be, kind of back where they started after that game 1 in this game 2.
A tough characterization for the top esports, you know, room. It's particularly the jungle room after this cast from us here, Covey. Just sitting back there thinking I should call him. We'll see what Kanavi's up to.
That's fine. Nayo's going to go check the match history and feel a little bit better about his state, you know, with Kanavi falling 0-2 to the Noodles, which is not exactly one essentially either. So, bad day for top esports and top esports alum alike, as that is a tower shot.
Bin trying to get away, gets interrupted by the pillar, and now he is in way too deep. Top Esports with a chance to pick up first blood, and they give it to 369. A sign of hope in the top lane, and maybe even some more as Knight under pressure in mid. Fengyue making his way up there, ticks over to level 3, has the full kit available, and that's more than enough to beat on this squishy Ziggs. Interrupted as he gets thrown back by the satchel charge. Now Shun going to try to put that shoe on the other foot. Flash away by Fengyue, and he will stay alive.
That was a really nice bait by Knight. He did play that calculated. This is a little scary, though. Does he need any help from Shun? No, Cream's out of mana. He's going to be okay. Very well played by Knight. As I will say that Bin did eat a tower shot off the claw from 369, so I think that's why he tried the TP out immediately. Bit ambitious, though, as Trundle was spotted on this top side. Of course, after Kiana did force Trundle out of the bot side jungle, Nayo was spotted on the cross. Bin tried the cheeky TP to get out, but Nayo was on top of it. was able to help out his top laner, and they converted on a tower shot being taken. Bin took I'd say a riskier play to get out, and Nio able to punish with 369.
And now back to the scene of the
There's
crime, but look at that stack up. Pillar plus charge from Feng Yue. Nio and Feng Yue showing some of that experience together from the LDL. They sync their abilities, make another pick, and Top Esports are up 2-0.
Yeah, nice Poppy Trundle combo from our LDL standouts in Nio and Feng Yue, who did play together on BLG Youth and did have success in the LDL. Did win a championship. Nio won MVP for a split. And these two were quite the combo as Top Esports kind of trying to find some of that LDL championship combo and develop these guys and hopefully being LPL champions on their side, which so far looks like we have a long way to go there. But a project for Top Esports this year with some younger pieces. And, of course, Nio climbing the ranks last year. Someone that we're hoping continues to be a promising piece of the LPL and making a nice play with his old support there. And Feng Yue, that's a good combo.
Yeah, the heroic charge into the pillar. I didn't dare to hope for it in Champion Select, Cubby. Nobody ever pieces these combos together, at least not frequently enough for my liking. But well done by Nio and Feng Yue, showing that they can, in fact, execute at least 1-for-1 so far. We'll see if they're going to be able to keep that up as the game goes on, because that is a really powerful kind of snap-engage tool if you do find yourself in these circumstances where jungle support are near each other. Makes it a little bit more unpredictable. Nobody's going to flash a straight-up Poppy charge without any terrain near them, but by the time it shows up, it could very well be too late. Nice little hard-to-react combo there as Dragon will stay alive. Bin ulting back to top lane. Make sure he doesn't leave it unguarded for too long, but this could be a tough little brawl for 369 as Bin is fresh off the item purchases.
A lot of MR in his kit and has Shun in his back pocket too. Getting back to lane. A little bit behind in terms of what he has available to him at the moment. But on this current inventory threshold, he will beat 369, who is being attacked. Death Realm is cast. Shun will be here for afterwards.
Yeah, 369 going to have a couple of seconds here just to beat on Bin and try to get Nio over here to back him up. Flashes back towards his Trundle. Will get hit by the Decimating Smash, but will hold on to his life. So at the end of the day, it's ult and flash off of 369, but not going to be able to force him out of lane, still at over half HP. Feng Yue making his way up here, looking like they might want to find a little bit more or something, but Bin and Jun, they know better.
Yeah, Shun has nothing else to do on this side of the map, and Feng Yue was spotted. Whoa, he actually canceled his recall, and he's going to wait. They might go after 369, who is down flash ult.
Yeah, does not respect the potential for Shun to still be here, and he will drop down. Bin equalizes the kill score in the top lane.
Just one more wave waited, and it will be at the cost of a dragon, but it does buy Bin some breathing room and does punish 369, who was down flash and ult. So, trade made. We'll say Nio, I think the attempted hover he had was nice for 369, did help him get out of the first look, and did buy him a dragon. So I do want to give Nio some props. I feel like he responded well to that play, and 369 just, didn't respect the fact that Shun might be tanking his game a little bit. They did have a ward on the Raptors, which I feel like 369 shouldn't really cross the midpoint until they hopefully see Qiyana again, because the Qiyana topside camps would have been down. So I do feel like that's a wave he probably should have played a little bit further back on, but of course did not, and Shun punishes.
Makes a nice little move there to get Bin back into even Steven state in the top lane, which we talked about it over and over again in game number 1. Could really snowball these top lane advantages in 2026. So critical to not let your Scion just start getting bullied in this Mordekaiser lane. That said, Top Esports on top of the ball in terms of getting these grubs for themselves. Looks like they will be able to clean up all 3. Shun not in position to show up here and try to contest any of them. And Viper takes a pretty big chunk in that bottom side as well from Jiachi, just throwing down the bullet time to be able to guarantee himself a little bit of a safer recall while the rest of his team works on those objectives topside.
Nashor's Tooth in inventory for Cream. Curious if they actually get Cream out into a side lane for anything. As You can do some damage with Nash's on Azir, as, oh, that is a Death Realm cast for 369 that does cancel the Q channel, but Shun is here again once this expires.
And no flash once he gets out this time. He's going to have to try to take a long walk back, but nowhere to go. They donate the kill to Knight off the Mega Inferno Bomb. And just like that, Knight is starting to develop a bit of a lead again. Cream is ahead in gold for right now, but funneling that gold over to the Ziggs, definitely going to make life difficult. Nio going to pop the Subjugate on towards Bin. Seems to think he has an angle to chase this guy down. Flashes after him to chomp him again. And Nio will solo kill Bin in defense of the top lane tower.
Yeah, just presses R on Scion, says thank you for all those stats that you purchased. They're now mine, as he makes sure that the Scion falls. So kind of a bloody back and forth bout here top lane. We'll say again, ramifications across the map, not too many so far. I do think that BLG is happy to scale. If we want to talk about this game in terms of a scaling battle, I'm going to prefer the Ziggs and the Sivir later on.
Oh, showing up off the spellbook teleport. Jiachi nowhere to go. And Viper going to brawl with him. Jiachi flashes away, able to pick up Viper with the double up. Just waits too long. BLG can't make the play fast enough. And the early game damage at Jiachi's misfortune makes it a 1-for-1.
Nice flash by Jiachi. It got him over the boomerang blade of Sivir, so the flash was helping to maximize the damage that he was able to dodge out on. That's a nice skill shot to dodge, as that boomerang was dodged on the way back and did help him get the trade kill. So that's going to hopefully help him get an earlier BT. Well played by Jiachi to get out of that scenario the best he could.
Jackie Love's vacation just got extended by 1 extra week. Jiachi showing up in the bottom lane here. Is 369 getting attacked in the top once again, and this guy just cannot catch a break. Knight going to get himself another.
So this is why I didn't love the Mordekaiser pick. I kind of got stuck on talking about how him and Trundle can have some missed energies, which is true. But also, you're playing Mordekaiser, like the Ziggs was showing, walking through minefields and satchel charges and bouncing bombs can be quite difficult for a champion that is pretty immobile. Like your best defense against that is pressing R on someone and not having to deal with the Ziggs. If you have to deal with the Ziggs, he's really tough to deal with from that perspective. So I think that this is one where...
All
right, a little bit of a miscalc there. That's all right. They ran out of minions. But this is another part of why I'm a little bit cautiously... was kind of cautious about this Mordekaiser from 369 in this game. And do like how Knight has punished that pick so far with a visit top with the bomb for the free kill and then a walk top to get the turret as well.
You know what? At first I was mad at Knight, and now I forgive him. The threshold for Satchel Charge executing the turret should be the last plate. That just makes sense. It's intuitive, but it appears to not be the case.
Yeah, so you can see the Q was thrown out. Flash is under it, so that cannot come back and hit him. I think the flash, too, it wasn't like Viper could flash and drag that back, given where Jiachi dropped it. So, well played, Jiachi.
Good showing up against a very well-respected bot laner there in a 2-versus-1 situation. We asked why the misfortune in this particular game. That gives us somewhat of an answer there. It looks like he's at least comfortable on it and does show up in the earlier stages where it is stronger in these duels than the Sivir. Now eyes towards the Dragon that Nio is already starting up. They've got Prio in bot lane. Cream pushing in mid. They are well set up to be able to start this one off, and Shun looking in from the outside without clear vision on it, now getting it spotted by that ward over the wall. Shun going to jump over, look to steal, throws down Supreme Display of Talent, snags the Dragon, flashes away. Nio going to try to chase him down, can't get over the wall. Feng Yue and Cream, it's their job now. Shun going to be able to slip back over on the other side. Feng Yue slams him into the wall and will give that kill on over. Now Cream going to be able to shuffle back on, who will flash away over the wall himself. Nobody going to drop on the top esports side, as Cream able to dance away from some further bouncing bombs.
I actually thought Shun was going to sneak out of there. He got the Dragon, so that's still, you know, BLG's still pretty happy about that, as Knight's going to try and force Cream to E back to lane. We'll force him out, and BLG's bot lane, given that their jungler is down, given that Jiachi does have that BT, under pressure.
Yeah, Jiachi really kind of ending up the big winner from that exchange as he just gets time to slam away at this turret, getting isolated turret plate gold for himself, and will be able to continue to do so up against Viper's Sivir. Up to nearly a 1,000 individual gold advantage now. That's going to be plenty helpful coming into these later skirmishes. I'm sure he wishes he was going to be contending for a second dragon, but well played by Jun to be able to snag that for the BLG side, despite it costing him his life.
Kind of waiting for this Herald to spawn to see if either team can posture. I think this might be the first time we see BLG group up. And I think that it's a curious point where Bin is more vulnerable to Jiachi, which sounds weird given that he's vulnerable to an MF than he is to the top side, given just the sheer amount of MR that he has stacked early on. But curious, because I think that for top esports, I don't know what the answer is between Death Realming Sion or subjugating him and then trying to kill him as a team. I think you have to choose one or the other. And frankly, I think that I kind of want a Death Realm, not Sion at this point. I think that taking away Ziggs could be actually quite interesting to me. Just because I don't think you can kill him in the Death Realm, but you might take away utility where you can win the rest of the fight, or like around a Ziggs not being there, because Cream and Jiachi might be able to play out something cleaner. That said, 369 might be forced to ult here to get out of the dive.
Oh, doesn't manage
Never
to
mind.
channel Death Realm in time. He had Feng Yue en route, but just doesn't have the time, doesn't have the opportunity. And now Knight's about to execute another tower, although Rift Herald doing a lot of work in mid lane. Will pick up an outer for Jiachi, and will get plenty more gold into himself and Nayo. Does nearly equalize the gold off of another kill in bottom lane. BLG really taking the fight to 369 in this game number 2.
Again, I like it. I think Mordekaiser, if left in isolation, you can be a menace, but if attacked, you are immobile. And it has been a very good direction here from Shun to help Bin and honestly just get Knight ahead, because Knight has been the big benefactor. That is a Liandry's Torment done on Knight. We are 2 items at 17 minutes. Evolve Sork Shoes as well, Gordo. This Zig's going to be packing quite the punch.
Yeah, I like your idea of Death Realming the Ziggs more and more as Knight gets further and further
I'm curious what they
do.
Yeah. As I don't want to take away Sion. I actually think you might be able to melt Sion in the front line just with Subjugate, and that is the target you really want to subjugate. Whereas, yeah, I mean, 369 is just under siege from the Ziggs. I love how they're moving the Ziggs into the Mordekaiser lane. Mordekaiser struggles with wave clear. Ziggs can really attack him because he's forced to walk up, forced to be under threat of Ziggs' poke. And I think that this direction that BLG is playing with the Ziggs, I mean, this was a pick that Knight really proved he could play at the start of Split 3 last year. He was playing a lot of Ziggs into Azir and playing it very well. And it's great to see him do so again in Split 1 of 2016.
Naya subjugated Bin down here. It's come and gone already, and Bin is still looking plenty healthy. Although, looking at this attempt in the bottom side, Shun thought he had an angle onto Feng Yue and Jiachi, but it's going to be Jiachi who walks away with the kill. Mega Inferno Bomb does a boatload, though, and takes Feng Yue very, very low. But Jiachi's strong enough with the Bloodthirster, keeps the fight going. Viper comes in from the bottom side. Viper now in a 1 versus 4 will finally be able to claim Jiachi's life. He also gets a bouncing bomb over to Feng Yue, or a bouncing boomerang, rather. Too many bouncing abilities in this game. Viper got 2, though. What a move on the flank.
I can't believe he got 2 there. I thought Viper kind of lost his mind flashing in, but of course, one of the best ADs that we have on the planet, well, he proved me wrong. As Shun, looks like that ult was supposed to go to the close wall, not the far one. As Feng Yue was able to get him trapped. Jiachi connects with him here with the Q that bounces through. Great combo from Knight, synergized here with On. And let's see how Viper got this kill, because frankly, this is a pretty straightforward fight. Yeah, just going to be the W. Bouncing through, does find Feng Yue. And those 2 kills onto Viper definitely makes that flash in worth it. It looked goofy, but he's going to have a same flash timer as Jiachi. And those 2 kills to his name could be significant. As again, the scaling of BLG, I prefer the Ziggs, prefer the Sivir as this game goes on. I think their game is easier to play out. And this dual threat comp does have a scaling advantage on their end if they're able to execute.
Yeah, 2 kills to Jachi as well, though. Feels very good for the Misfortune. Gets the Collector done off of that one, and an additional BF sword on top of it. Could very well be a big force in this fight if they are able to get a good bullet time down across the squad. Top Esports already with a second dragon to their name during that exchange, and working towards stacking up that potential Hextech Soul.
Look, I think it's Top Esports right now. I would much rather fight 2 items than 3 items. 3 items, you're risking going up against an IE Sivir and a Deathcap Ziggs. I think fighting now on this 2-item spike, they're going to be a much happier team doing so than fighting 3s. So that makes this next Dragon or a potential early Baron big for me. But meanwhile, 369, he's been set behind all game. That's going to continue here.
He just throws out the Death Realm for a nice trade with the Scion, which, yeah, good for you, buddy, but you do fall down afterwards. Engage towards mid-night. Able to clean up a nice and easy kill onto the jungler off that knock-up from On. And more gold being funneled over towards Knight. Meanwhile, Jachi getting collapsed on by the rest of the squad. Will trade back onto Viper once again. Makes it a 1-for-1.
They're going to get the turret, though, with the Ziggs. I think that's why they went for it. And with the TP, BLG, they just played all 3 waves. They got they got bot in, they got mid in, and took the outer and the TP to the outer for Scion. Make sure they can farm the 3rd wave and quell the threat of the 1 turret that Top Esports were threatening in that one. So, oh, hold on. They might threaten Bin, though. TP coming in from Knight.
Fengyue and Cream combo to get that stun up against the Emperor's Divide, but Bin is so tanky. He's staying alive. Cream can't stay in range. On is in here to distract him. Gets a nice double knockup, but he'll be focused down. He drops as well. And now in comes Shun trying to knock back in. Cream will isolate him and hand the kill to his mid laner, but Bin's got nowhere to go. He fails the flash, and it will be a 2-for-1 in favor of Top Esports.
Honestly, kind of a wild series. 369 probably going to fall after the Death Realm. What was that from Nio?
Oh,
goes straight to
nearly
Viper.
able to take down Shun, but instead Nio arrives to the fight to be able to clean that up. TP coming in. This was Fengyue off of the Summoner's Spellbook, but Nio's just taken so much damage from Knight. Knocked into the wall. Bullet time by Jachi. Jachi gets another. Viper steps up, finishes off Fengyue. Trades back and forth all across the board. 13-13 on the scoreboard.
Chaos erupts here in the LPL, getting back to some familiar territory in a chaotic bout between these two. And I don't know exactly what happened there, Gordo. It felt like a lot of small plays just kind of erupted into one elongated one. As it's about getting Bin now, kind of on the flip side after he TP'd to correct this lane. On's going to go down very quickly because he has no ult. He's holding his sums here because I think he kind of thinks Bin is dead and then wants to impact the TP / is trying to wait for Knight. But he just kind of dies for free. I'm curious why Bin walks back in, just because I think this play could be over for BLG. Like, without Bin. Meaning, like, they just get a 0 for free and walk out.
Oh.
But then Bin walks it again, and the entire fight erupts yet again as he was trying to flash the Claw. Wasn't able to get out of that stun in time, so ends up flashing after the Claw goes through. Couldn't get over the wall. Kind of a bang-bang play there. I'll give Bin a little bit of reprieve on that failed flash. I can't believe that Shun won this in the Death Realm. And Nio's Portal Limb is kind of wild, too. But, yeah, I mean, just a lot of kind of sporadic plays. I feel like BLG could have called that one off much earlier, and Top honestly got a pretty decent answer. Like, going even, just being, I think, a little bit behind and getting outscaled at this point. I think that fights are going to be better for them now than later. And honestly, even better now that we return to the scoreboard because there's an IE completed on Jachi, whereas Viper's still waiting to finish his.
Yeah, this is a really strong power spike for Jachi. Just been getting kill after kill after kill. And now with an item advantage over Viper, maybe making Top Esports feel like they have a great opportunity to take a fight very, very shortly. This would get them onto Soul Point here. Nio already making life tough for them with the Pillar. Knight already used the Satchel Charge as well. He can't really get away from this. It's a stun into the wall. It's onto Shun, but Mega Inferno Bomb lands on a 3. Cream in the middle of nowhere. Spell Shield comes out from Viper, and Cream completely wastes the engage. Nio now left out to dry, focused down by the rest of BLG, and they get 3 in an instant.
I do not like how Cream played that fight. I think it was a great reaction flash by Knight, but Cream going in that early, Yeah, I feel like that's going to
It's
move
going
down
down.
cream of the crop. We can't play Torpedo Azir like that. Not in this season. As, okay, 369 is going to death round Bin, but what happens afterwards?
He dies, Cubby. He dies. And let's see how that plays out. He flashes back away. Down he goes regardless. And BLG, you know, there's still 5 or 3 on the map.
I feel like that was the last chance for Top Esports. It's no longer a sole point. I think they get outscaled from here. Viper's going to have IE completed. Knight did have death cap for that fight, which was a big one. But for me, I think that Top Esports just overextended past their line. Like, when we get the replay for this, I want you in your head to draw a line from the edge of the Raptor wall to red buff at home. Like that, the most narrow line here, like where Shun and Knight are, I think that Poppy gets to pass this, but afterwards, you can't pass that line. It's very dangerous, too. They don't have the info. And Cream just torpedoes himself through a minefield into a Zigzar, then tries to save it on the Viper, who has a spell shield. I feel like the milk has gone sour there, Cream. I don't know what the attempt was as we tried to make that play. And him torpedoing himself in there through a line that I feel like you really cannot cross, that you have to fight on, is a big oopsie and a fundamental misunderstanding of what Cream's job should be in that fight and formation.
Yeah, you gotta want, even if the spell shoot isn't there, I don't think that's a fight-winning
No, it's not.
Emperor's Divide. Like,
Yeah,
Viper
you
will
need the
survive.
DPS. You can't throw yourself into Zig spells. It was a great reaction flash by Knight, but again, Cream doesn't need to overforce a play like that. That felt like desperation to me.
Definitely. In too deep, nowhere to go but through, and it does not work out for Cream in that instance. Jiachi's still ahead, but Viper has completed the Infinity Edge now, and now reaching that Sivir goes up in priority, but the tools to do so now less accessible than ever. Cream going to be without that flash for a while. I mean, this top lane is just miserable. This Mordekaiser pick has not worked out one bit. 4-3-6-9. They're calling over Nio, trying to make something happen. Bin tries to get away from the pillar, does pull a 90-degree turn, but will crash into the wall afterwards, still able to escape that potential collapse.
Oh my god, Knight's too good, man. Knight is too good. Oh, Cream
Gets out of there.
caught.
Yeah,
Oh.
Shun is here now too. Cream is going to fall down as well. Knight just hosed that play completely. And Feng Yue just going to try to escape from this with his life. Oh, An gets prevented from being able to get up against the wall there by a nicely placed pillar. But, oh boy, Cream is dead.
I find so much joy in just watching Knight really, like, oh, wait, An?
Oh, An turning this right back around.
That's a
Finds a
little
two-man knock-up. Is a little bit far away from the rest of the team. Bullet time going to be opened up. Doesn't land mostly onto the cow, though, and Feng Yue is going to be the one who falls the lowest. Jiachi is slowed down. Bin finds the knock-up, and Bin finds Jiachi.
Oh, ended up working on the back half. I felt like An was a little bit too far up at the start, but BLG made it work with Bin. After the nice flash re-engage, did catch Jiachi unaware. He was flashless, so that play was there for BLG. As we'll see if Nio can get in. He does have flash. He wants to go for the Spite Steal.
Yeah, coming in through the river. Going to need to be a miracle here from Nio. An looking to mark him, though, keep him away. Pillar comes through, and it looks like BLG are going to kite it off of it. Not interested in flipping the game at this particular Baron.
Yeah, there is a threat of death realming the Kiana, so that the only smite on the map would be Nio. So I think BLG smart to get off of that one unaware. I do want to return, though, to just the big picture point. I know that we're talking about Cream and kind of how Cream hasn't had his best game. But the fact that Knight, like, LPL is a region where you don't really have players that are, like, really sprinting to pick Ziggs. Ziggs feels like in a way, I think at home, sometimes the antithesis of what LPL usually plays like, which is quickly. Now, Ziggs does have quite the turret-taking ability, which is nice. I think was used very well by Knight in this game. But my point is, a lot of the answers that we usually see to Azir are more aggressive picks. And Knight, again, since Split 3 last year, I think he really took joy in playing the Ziggs into Azir. And it does give you some nice fearless flexibility, because I think Ziggs is a matchup that very uniquely can play into Azir, the likes of which we've seen Knight use this game well. Whether that is just the laning phase being good, having the range advantage, or the satchel to interrupt some of the Azir combos coming in later on. I think that Knight really... this is a matchup where I've really seen him run with it, and he's mastered it to a level that no other mid really has in the LPL, and no one else is really playing the Ziggs into Azir which is a matchup that I feel like has a lot of good qualities to it, as Knight has shown throughout this game.
Definitely showing off how much he can just continue to add tools to the toolbox to just be able to dominate the role in this region. And so many highlights already this game. This is about to be perhaps 4 Pogs in a row for Mr. Knight, assuming he is able to close out this game the way that he has thus far. And
I will
each
say,
and every
Gordo,
one of them well-deserved.
I think that our broadcast voted Knight MVP twice and was not won by him in split 2 or 3. As
Ooh.
That's a dead poppy.
Yeah, already going to be Fengyue taken off the board. That's going to limit their ability to actually find any kind of hard CC onto the likes of BLG, and they're about to clean themselves up a soul point of their own. Top Esports' ability to contest this, pre-hosed by that earlier pick in mid.
Kind of amazing how easy it is to play Sivir Sion Ziggs later on at this point of the game, you know?
You just group and win.
Yeah, you just kind of just group and profit. And you just get to sit behind one of the tankiest members of the game. Subjugate, Death Realm, I think those are the big tools I'm still looking to see if Top Esports can use those correctly to create a weird fight. I don't know who I would take away. That is a little bit to be determined. I think that's... I'm curious to see who ends up getting Death Realms, as I don't think that Sion's the option.
Well, the other thing is that, yeah, 369 loses the fight to whoever he takes with him at this point. He's so far behind 7 deaths in this game. A 1.7k gold lead over to Bin as they're looking for an engage here on. Sprinting forward, does get blocked by the Steadfast Presence. Going to flash away from that unstoppable onslaught of Bin as well. Jiachi able to keep himself alive, but he's taken such a large chunk of damage. He's got nothing to Bloodthirster back up off of. Cream gets chunked out as well. Mega Inferno Bomb keeps Jiachi lower than ever. He can't even recall safely, and BLG own the map.
And Knight's just in their PCs, actually, like in the software. They're just guessing where Jiachi's basing there. Almost hit the sweet spot on that one. At least gets the barrier for his troubles. Will be a reset advantage going over to BLG, but Bin's alone top. On's rotating, gonna find the Trundle.
Yeah, but who's gatching who here? Because Bin's just going to wander on down. Jiachi back at half HP in the same instant he comes right out of the base. Down it goes Fengyue once again. 369 going to be the next focus. He flashes but misses on, who's flashed back into the bush. Now he's getting deeper behind enemy lines inside the Death Realm. I'm going to punt him away, and out he comes, down he goes. Knight going to be able to find that kill as Bin steps forward. No fear in his eyes as he knows he can tank whatever Top Esports can throw at him. Viper stepping forward with the boomerang blades. Finally wins a 1v1 with Jiachi. Knight going to be able to pick off Cream, and Top Esports crumble.
Cream, we're getting styled on by On's Alistar. That's not good. Oh, BLG styling on all Top Esports as they have scaled, and game 1 may not be quite as fancy or decisive, I should say. This game 2 is not as fancy or decisive as game 1. But nonetheless, it seems like a dominant win here for BLG. A little bit more chaos, but still, BLG, I think, hands down, better team on the day. As Nio does not have a flash, does not have a way into the pit, and no hope at stealing the Baron here for Top Esports.
None at all. And BLG, yeah, there was a moment where this game was 13-13, Cubby, if you recall. It has gotten completely out of control since then. BLG just winning fight after fight. And yeah, I mean, Nio and 369... attempting a pick like this is a completely different game state than it actually is. They have no chance in this 2-on-2. Bin is just so strong, and of course, the 3-on-3 occurring on the other side of the map is just, once again, Fengyue getting demolished.
You know what, Gordo? You mentioned 2 threes in that, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention 369 rolling a 3 on that play.
Yeah.
As Cream...
It's a 3s night, for sure.
Yeah, it's sadly a 3s night. He's rolling 3s, and BLG sent 3 people in his lane for most of the game to help with that, too. So that's... Yeah, definitely some targeted focus from BLG. Attack this Mordekaiser. One that, again, I feel like is very warranted in this draft. Mordekaiser should struggle against Ziggs. BLG's done a very good job of that.
Bin up in the front line. He finds Cream straight up, knocks him out of the shifting sands, and down he goes. Knight claims another life for himself.
we've gotten we got outhandsed by On, and then we ate a decimating smash. I feel like Cream wants to go back to the fridge, as he's being fridged early in this one, Gordo. And BLG looking to take care of business on this push.
Bin walks up slowly and down smashes and finds Cream. Nowhere for him to go. And it's going to be Knight just continuing to rain hell on the rest of the top esports lineup as they desperately try to stay alive.
Yeah, that Ziggs damage is pretty big at this point. I think they're going to call it at that, as Cream going to respawn here shortly, and BLG not going to overstay, going to make sure they use that Baron recall and get out on this map quickly again. As TP is even going to be used to keep these waves in, as Dragon is spawning in 10 seconds, and this would indeed be Hextech Soul for BLG, and that would indeed be the game. You're not coming back against a Hextech Soul, Ziggs, or Sivir. You need something special for that probably doesn't exist in these games.
Yeah, shot over the wall. On a little bit sectioned away from the rest of the team, but he does have Knight chucking bombs away. Cream trying to come in on the flank, but spotted and marked by Viper. Bin now up here in the face of 3. Does take a fair bit of a chunk there. Jiachi, one who can actually deal damage to him, at least if exposed to him for a while. Mega Inferno Bomb finds Jiachi, though, and he's just got to stand still and hit minions to sustain through it. 369 gets blown up by Knight, and Shun finds the carries into the back line, isolates both Cream and Jiachi, and top Esports are hosed. A triple kill to Shun. BLG 5 for 0, clean ace to close out this series.
BLG are ascending. Top Esports, I would say that they're persevering. It's definitely not a state of nirvana, as things are on fire over there in the top Esports camp. The vets are not helping the youngins be incorporated, as frankly, I think that I can see almost more problems from 369 and Cream than I can the new members of top Esports, as that means that there are problems everywhere for top Esports if the vets aren't playing well. Top Esports have really struggled at the start of this year, and BLG, with 4 out of the 5 members that we're used to seeing together, paired up with Viper as an AD, are looking like the scary team we really thought they could be in the LPL so far.
Absolutely are here, and you know, you don't need every single member to pop off every single game. It's a little bit of a quieter laning phase this time around from folks like Viper, but they don't need him to be winning out in these 2v2s each and every single game. Knight ends up getting funneled from a focus towards Bin. They just try to hose 369 out of the game nice and early, and they're able to do that in droves. He gets the first kill, but after that, it's just a 3-man top over and over and over again, and at least a good 50% of the time, that kill ends up going over to Knight and giving him the advantage to be able to carry through the rest of the game.
Yet Knight is just in mid-season form is what it feels like, as Cream, I think, really struggled in that series. Top Esports really struggling as a team right now as they're trying to incorporate a lot of new pieces and a lack of experience. And again, for me, it just really comes down to the experienced members are not the ones helping. They're the ones that are getting punished, getting caught, and I think making the game harder for the young ones that are trying to play at this level. And it's not a good look for Top Esports, as they definitely look like the bottom of Group Ascend and the team that a lot of other teams in Group Perseverance and Group Nirvana should be targeting.
Yeah, we made it a point of emphasis at the start of the night that we wanted to see the veterans step up here for Top Esports, and they stepped down tonight. It was not a good night for 369 or for Cream. I think Jiachi got to show us a little bit, and, you know, Nayo had some decent plays in there as well for portions of the early game, but yeah, I mean, these giant deficits that were accrued before too long in both games just ended up taking them out of the competition.
Yeah, and I think that part of why that game just looked closer, too, in the game, too, like, yes, Top Esports did some okay things. I think that there were a couple of sloppy sequences from both teams, but also BLG scaling. So, I think when we talked about that 4th Drake in the game that spawned, that would have been sole point for Top Esports, I was like, hey, they could probably have to hit this point hard because it doesn't get better for them from here on out. We kind of saw